Hey you guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another unhaul, and this time it's not as much as it was before, but there's still some books, and I'm awkwardly moving it to the front. It's fine. I didn't think about this ahead of time. We're okay. But let's just kind of get into it because I need this weight lifted off, and I always forget that I have these books to unhaul until I rearranged my life. So the first book, but really it's a trilogy that I am unhauling, is the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth. If you guys don't know, I don't even know what this series is about anymore, really. It's been so long since I've read it or watched the movies. But essentially, from what I can remember, everything is broken up into factions, and our main girl, and I guess when you turn 16 or something, you take a test that chooses the faction for you. And our main girl ends up in a completely different faction than what she was anticipating, and it opens up a door of problems. And I liked the series. I liked how it ended. I felt like it was a nice twist to the normal YA kind of ending. But I just don't see myself picking this up, rereading it, looking back at it with fondness. So maybe I'm sure it'll find a different home somewhere, but I can only hope. But like I said, it's going away now. The next book that I'll be unhauling is Mythology by Edith Hamilton, or Mythology, Timeless Tales of Gods and Heroes by Edith Hamilton. This is the beginner's guide, the beginner's guide to Greek mythology and some Norse mythology. And I tried rereading it. I couldn't really do it very much. I read this in high school, but I couldn't reread it a second time in adulthood, primarily because a lot of the myths that I had grown up and have more in-depth knowledge on are really terribly abbreviated in this book, and it's just not my cup of tea anymore. I feel like it'll find a better home elsewhere, and there are other mythology books out there that don't abbreviate it to all hecky. So the next book I'm unhauling is one that actually took me quite a bit to really think about to decide to unhaul, and that is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. I was really excited for this book, and I wasn't going to unhaul it because I bought this specific book while I was abroad in Ireland, the place I never stopped talking about when given the chance. But I didn't like this book. I told myself I'd reread it to see how I felt, but I can't see myself picking it up at any time soon. It wasn't as exciting as it sounded, and it's just not my cup of tea anymore. So hopefully it'll find a better home, and thankfully this isn't the European cover for it, so I don't feel all that bad about sending it to the farm, metaphorically speaking. The next book that I'm unhauling is Myths and Legends, Classical Greek, Celtic, Norse, Chinese, African, Native American, and More, which was edited by Jake Jackson. I did a review on this as to why I did not finish this book. I am unhauling this book for reasons because, one, there were a lot of editorial mistakes that were going on that really took away from the reading. There were paragraphs that were cut in half that could have been made better, and on top of that, some of the other parts of the mythology, the myths that I am well acquainted with were kind of written through a very heteronormative lens, and a very white lens is the best way I can put it. So it's just not I don't like it. I'd rather pick up a different book that kind of explores the nuances of the mythology back then. And on top of that, if a myth that I'm well acquainted with is, in my eyes, a little incorrect, then what's to say that the myths that were that are African American or POC are even that accurate in a sense. So it's just not that great. The next book I'm unhauling is just a smidgen controversial, and well, everyone hated this book anyway, so it's not that controversial, but I feel like you break up a set and it's just controversial there, and that is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. This is the story of Harry Potter 19 years later. It's a play, and I was very excited for it, and I read this guy in a day, and I thought I was gonna really like it, but it just ended up being really problematic in terms of the characters' arcs from the first to the 7th book, and just how the characters treated one another, and like there were plot issues that I was not okay with. So it can go away and find a better home. I don't know who will pick this thing up, but it can go away. The next book is another one of those books that it took me a long time to really figure out whether or not I want to keep it, and that is Lament by Maggie Stiefvater. This is, I believe, Maggie Stiefvater's debut novel. It essentially follows a young girl who is a cello player, and it's Celtic folklore with fairies in there, and I love this book. I really did, but I know that Maggie has no interest in continuing on their story past the second book. And while I love the Raven Cycle and I will continue to love all of Maggie's works, I just can't bring myself to really, like, I've reread this book a ton of times trying to really invest myself in these characters, and I can't do it. So I just think it needs to find a better home elsewhere where someone will like it and continue on with the duology and really invest themselves, because I can't do it, and that's just not fair. They're sitting here collecting dust. The next book that I'm unhauling is one that I am ambivalent toward, and that is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This is a YA dystopian novel following one day a illness came and like attacked all the children and killed off a bunch of them, like everywhere in America. And then all the kids that remained developed some kind of weird powers, and it turned into like a weird X-Men situation where they were all like scurried off into like a concentration camps where they were like raised and really brutally abused, and our main character Ruby is one of those kids. I enjoyed this first book. I thought the concept of the series was really interesting. I liked the aspects of it and kind of like that dystopian world, but I just can't see myself continuing on with this series. Like, I think I enjoyed where I don't remember much of the book. I don't plan on rereading. I don't plan on continuing, so it just makes no sense for me to keep it on my shelves. So, but I mean, like, if you liked it, that's great. I just can't do it. The next book that I'm unhauling should be no surprise because I really did not like this book, and that is Dividing Eden by Joelle Charbonneau. We always have this problem, and I never tried to remember how to pronounce it. It's fine. This is a YA high fantasy where twins Karis and Andreas were kind of dead last for the throne, and then all of a sudden their father and their brother were brutally killed in an assassin attempt, and they're forced to kind of enter a game and see who will win the throne. It's a weird Three Dark Crown situation that I was really intrigued in, but I just can't stand the characters. I can't, and there was like a weird random magic situation, and I can't bring myself to pick up the second book to the duology and finish it out. So it's gonna find a new home, and it's fine. It's all dandy and good. The next book that I'm unhauling is Beast by Bree Spangler? Yes, Spangler. This is a YA contemporary novel following Dylan, who is kind of like a beast in his own right. He's like 15 years old, has a bunch of hair, super buff without really even trying, and like after a situation where he fell off his roof and everyone thinks he attempted to commit suicide, he is sent to group therapy where he meets Jamie, who is she's a trans girl, and like a romance ensues, and there's and like I was intrigued by it because I thought it would be a really nice, like, we see a lot of things through Dylan's perspective, so I thought it'd be a nice, interesting, study on sexuality and everything for a kid, especially who as confuses him. But I just can't get over Dylan. He's just terrible, and I don't like him. He needs to go away, and I can't. The second to last book that I'm unhauling is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This is another YA contemporary. Essentially, it follows Justice, who is a pretty good student, does really well, and then one day as he's trying to help his drunken ex-girlfriend home, he ends up in handcuffs. And it kind of brings about this idea of like, what would Martin Luther King do? And there's a lot of social commentary on it. And I enjoyed it, I really did. I thought this was a wonderful book, has a lot of important messages. My biggest issue is that it's just too short. And it's just like, there were a lot of things going on that could have been, that would have been better had it been expanded on and, like, you know, a longer work. But I really enjoyed Nick Stone, and I'll be picking up her other works in the future. Just Dear Martin is just, you know, not the work for me. The last book that I'm unhauling is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Barshadis. This is a Snow White retelling where Snow White is literally made of snow, and it's a feminist spin on things where the stepmother is actually also another good person, and the two roles are pitted against one another for the throne, and there's a lot of situations going on with that. I wanted to like this book a lot more than I thought when I bought it. My biggest problem with it is that I can't really bring myself to enjoy the characters, and like this book is very character driven, so it's saying a lot for me to be like, yeah, I didn't like it solely because of the characters. So it's interesting, and I liked it, like the feminist aspect of it. I also like that Snow White, it was a sapphic book as well. Can't go wrong with that. But I just couldn't really get myself invested in the characters, and that's always a big issue for me with books, so she'll find a better home elsewhere. But that is it for the books that I am unhauling this time around. I have been trying to get like a nice healthy amount of unhauls like put out every now and again, but like I have to wait for them to accumulate, so if you don't see one for like 6 or so months, that's probably why. But if you guys have read these books, tell me whether or not you like them or not, or like if you agree with me unhauling them. Typically, like regularly, that I mean no disrespect to the people who actually have enjoyed these books, I just don't enjoy these books for this particular reason and feel like they could find a better home elsewhere. But until next time, my stuff, like my links are all down in the description if you feel free to find me. Hit like, subscribe. I do upload twice a week, hopefully. But until then, I'll talk to you guys everywhere else. Bye.